It was a rainy night in October, the kind where the chill seeps into your bones. I was leaving a friend's party, tired and looking forward to my warm bed. As I stepped out, the rain seemed to intensify, urging me to seek shelter. That's when I saw it. An Uber parked right in front of me. Its arrival was timely, almost too perfect. My phone was dead, so I hadn't ordered it, but the driver rolled down the window and called out my name. "Jordan? Uber for Jordan?" he asked, his voice unsettlingly calm. I hesitated. My name is indeed Jordan, but something felt off. The street was eerily deserted, and the car's windows were tinted too dark to see inside properly. However, the relentless rain and the thought of the long walk home in this downpour nudged me to make a decision I would soon regret. I climbed into the back seat, and as soon as I shut the door, the car sped off. I tried to make small talk, but the driver remained silent, his eyes fixed on the road. The usual city landmarks began to blur into unfamiliar territory. Fear crept up my spine as I realized we were headed somewhere secluded. I demanded to be let out, but the driver ignored me, his expression unchanged. Then, the car abruptly stopped in the middle of nowhere. I tried the door. It was locked. Panic set in. The driver turned around, his face obscured in shadow, and whispered, "Your ride is just beginning." The car doors unlocked with a loud click. "Get out," the driver commanded, his voice colder than the rain outside. I stepped out into the unknown, finding myself in a dense forest. The car sped away, leaving me alone with nothing but the whispering trees and the relentless rain. I wandered aimlessly, hoping to find a way out. The forest seemed alive, with every rustle and shadow making my heart race. The trees felt like silent watchers, their branches reaching out like twisted fingers. I stumbled upon an old rundown cabin, its windows dark, the wood rotting. Desperation overrode my fear, and I approached, seeking any form of shelter. As I pushed the creaking door open, a chill ran down my spine. The cabin was filled with strange symbols and old photographs plastered on the walls. Faces I couldn't recognize, their eyes seeming to follow me. In the center of the room, a flickering candle illuminated an open box with writings I couldn't understand. Suddenly, the door slammed shut behind me. I spun around, heart pounding, only to see the room empty but for the haunting shadows. The air grew colder, and the whispering seemed to grow louder, as if the cabin itself was speaking to me. I felt watched, trapped in a nightmare. The photograph's eyes bore into me, and the symbols on the walls seemed to glow faintly. That's when I heard it. Footsteps outside, slow and deliberate. They circled the cabin, coming closer to the door. I braced myself, expecting the worst. As the footsteps reached the door, they stopped. I held my breath, waiting. Then without warning, the sounds vanished. I cautiously approached the door and flung it open, half expecting to face my captor, but there was nothing, only the dense dark forest. I ran without looking back, driven by pure instinct. The trees blurred as I sprinted, the rain pelting me relentlessly. Just when I thought I couldn't run any longer, I saw lights in the distance, a welcoming glow of civilization. I emerged from the forest, finding myself on the outskirts of the city. My relief was overwhelming. I made my way back, every step fueled by the adrenaline of my escape. The night's events were surreal, like figments of a twisted dream, but the reality was undeniable. I had escaped something unexplainable, something that lurked in the shadows of that forest and that abandoned cabin. As I finally reached the safety of my home, the first light of dawn was breaking. I was soaked, exhausted, and shaken to the core. I knew I would never forget this night, the night I took an Uber I never ordered, and faced terrors beyond my wildest nightmares. But I was alive, and at that moment, that was all that mattered. In the days that followed, the world seemed different, as if I was seeing it through a new lens. I tried to resume my normal life, but the shadows of that night lingered. Sleep was elusive, haunted by dreams of the twisted trees and whispering winds. I found myself jumping at the slightest noise, and the sight of an Uber in the street sent shivers down my spine. Determined to find answers, I began researching. I sourced the internet for any mention of the forest, the cabin, or the mysterious Uber driver. My efforts led me to a local legend of a haunted forest, tales of people vanishing without a trace, and stories of strange happenings. It was a rabbit hole of folklore and urban myths, each more unsettling than the last. I couldn't shake the feeling that I needed to understand what had happened to me to ensure it didn't happen again, to me or anyone else. I reached out to people who had posted about similar experiences, but many were reluctant to speak. Those who did talk only added to the mystery, with accounts of strange visions and feelings of being watched. As the pieces of the puzzle slowly came together, I realized that my experience was part of something larger, a tapestry of unexplained events tied to that forest, and perhaps to that very cabin. I learned of an old forgotten road that ran through the forest, one that locals avoided and whispered about in hushed tones. Armed with this knowledge, I made a decision. I would return to the forest, to that cabin, to confront whatever secrets lay hidden there. I needed closure to put an end to the fear that had taken root in my life. The day I went back was overcast, the sky a blanket of gray. As I approached the forest, every step felt heavier, as if I was walking against an invisible force. The cabin, when I finally reached it, looked even more ominous than I remember. Its decaying walls and dark windows seemed to mock my return. I pushed the door open, half expecting the horrors of that night to come flooding back. But the cabin was just an empty shell, devoid of the sinister presence I had felt before. The photographs were gone, the symbols erased, leaving nothing but the echo of my own footsteps. I searched every inch, looking for anything that could explain what had happened, but there was nothing, just the remnants of the place long abandoned. As I stood there in the hollow quiet of the cabin, I realized that some mysteries are meant to remain unsolved. Some shadows never fully illuminated. Maybe the cabin was just a cabin, its sinister aura a product of my panicked mind. Or perhaps it was something more, a place where the veil between reality and nightmare was dangerously thin. I left the cabin, feeling a mix of disappointment and relief. The forest, which had once seemed so menacing, now appeared just a normal stretch of wilderness. As I walked back to the city, the sense of being watched had vanished. It seemed as though confronting my fear had broken its hold over me. In the weeks that followed, life returned to a semblance of normality. The night of terror became a distant memory, like a bad dream fading upon waking. Yet every now and then, when the night is especially dark and the wind whispers through the trees, a chill runs down my spine and I remember the Uber that I never ordered, the forest of whispers, and the cabin that held secrets in its decaying walls. And I am reminded that there are things in this world that defy explanation, experiences that challenge our understanding of reality. My encounter with the unknown changed me, taught me to respect the mysteries that lurk in the shadows. As for the Uber, I never saw it again. But sometimes when a car slows down beside me on a deserted street, I can't help but hold my breath, half expecting to hear my name called out from the darkness. In the year 4024, the world as we know it had transformed into a dystopian wasteland, a dark shadow of its once vibrant self. The skies perpetually overcast with the ash of the countless fires cast a gloomy pall over the land. Buildings once proud and tall lay in ruins, their skeletal remains poking through the dense fog like bones of a long-forgotten beast. Humanity, or what was left of it, survived in scattered enclaves, eking out a meager existence from the barren land. Technology, once the beacon of hope and progress, had turned against its creators, leaving behind only rusted relics of a forgotten age. The cities, once bustling hubs of activity, were now ghost towns, haunted by the echoes of the bygone era. In the heart of this desolation, there was one city that stood out from the rest. It was known simply as the Zone, a place where the brave or foolish ventured in search of forgotten treasures or forbidden knowledge. The Zone was a labyrinth of decaying buildings, twisted metal, and dark secrets. It was said that the very air within its boundaries was cursed, poisoned by the sins of the past. At the center of the Zone lay an old research facility, a monolithic structure that towered over the surrounding ruins. It was here that the downfall of humanity had begun, with experiments too horrific to imagine. The facility was a maze of laboratories, containment cells, and research chambers, each holding its own tale of terror. One such tale was that of Subject Zero, the first and most terrifying creation of the facility's twisted minds. Subject Zero was rumored to be an amalgamation of a man and machine, a living weapon with no conscience or remorse. It was said that it still roamed the halls of the facility, a guardian of the horrors within. The air in the zone was thick with the stench of decay and whispers of the damned. The ground was littered with the remnants of the bygone age, rusted vehicles, broken electronics, and the bones of those who had ventured into the zone that never returned. Despite the dangers, there was those who dared to enter the zone, driven by desperation or greed. They were scavengers, hunters of relics from the old world, willing to risk their life for a chance of a better future. But the zone was unforgiving, and few who entered its confines ever emerged. One such scavenger was Mara, a young woman with haunted eyes and a will of iron. She had entered the zone in search of medicine for her ailing brother, venturing deeper into its heart than any had dared before. Her journey was fraught with peril, from the treacherous terrain to the creatures that lurked in the shadows. Mara's path eventually led her to an old research facility, the heart of the darkness within the zone. She entered its foreboding walls, her every step echoing through the empty corridors. Inside, she found horrors beyond comprehension, remnants of experiments that defied laws of nature and man. As she delved deeper into the facility, Mara began to realize the true extent of the atrocities committed there. She found chambers filled with grotesque hybrids of flesh and metal, creatures born of madness and despair. And in the deepest bowels of the facility, she found Subject Zero. Subject Zero was unlike anything Mara had ever seen, a nightmare made flesh. It was a towering figure, its body a patchwork of man and machine, its eyes glowing with a malevolent intelligence. Mara knew that she was in the presence of a monster, a being that embodied the darkest depths of human ambition. In that moment, Mara understood the true nature of the zone. It was not just a physical place, but a manifestation of humanity's hubris and folly. The zone was a reminder of what happened when man played God, a warning for the future. Mara faced Subject Zero, not with weapons, but with words. She spoke of the world outside the zone, of the people who still clung to hope and possibility for a better future. She spoke of her brother and the love that had driven her to this forsaken place. To her surprise, Subject Zero listened. In its eyes, Mara saw a flicker of understanding, a glimmer of humanity that had once resided within. In that moment, she realized that Subject Zero was not just a monster, but a victim of the same hubris that had destroyed the world. With a heavy heart, Mara left the facility, leaving Subject Zero behind. She emerged from the zone with more than just medicine for her brother. She carried with her a newfound understanding of the past and a determination to build a better future. The world of 4024 was a dystopian wasteland, a testament to the folly of man. But in the hearts of those like Mara, there was still hope. Hope for a world reborn from the ashes, a world where the mistakes of the past would not be repeated. As Mara trekked back through the desolate landscape of the zone, her mind was filled with thoughts of change and renewal. She realized that the key of humanity's survival lay not in the relics of the old world, but in learning from its mistakes and moving forward. Mara's return journey was perilous, but she was driven by a newfound purpose. She encountered other scavengers and shared her story, spreading the message of what she had witnessed within the depths of the old research facility. Her tale of the encounter with Subject Zero, a being both fearsome and tragic, served as a powerful reminder of consequences and unchecked ambition. Upon reaching her enclave, Mara's brother was treated with the medicine she risked so much to obtain. His recovery was slow but certain, and as he regained his strength, Mara shared her experience and the insight she had gained. Her story became a beacon of hope in the enclave, inspiring others to look beyond their daily struggle for survival. Word of Mara's journey and the truths she had uncovered in the zone began to spread among the scattered enclaves of humanity. People started to come together, sharing resources and knowledge, working towards rebuilding a society grounded in cooperation and respect for the planet. Mara became a leader in this new movement. She advocated for a balance between using the remnants of old technology and respecting the natural world. The enclaves began to form a loose federation, focusing on sustainable living, community building, and preserving the lessons of the past. Years passed, and the world of 4024 slowly began to change. The fog of despair lifted, and in its place grew a sense of purpose and hope. The enclaves thrived, developing new ways of living that were in harmony with the environment. The scars of the old world remained, but they served as reminders rather than shackles. In time, Mara organized an expedition to return to the zone, not to scavenge, but to document and learn. The group included scientists, historians, and even artists, all united in their mission to understand the past and ensure a better future. Upon entering the zone again, Mara felt a strange sense of coming home. The place that had once represented humanity's downfall now stood as a testament to its resilience. The expedition explored the ruins, uncovering artifacts and data that shed light on mistakes of the past. As they approached the old research facility, Mara felt a mix of apprehension and curiosity. The building, now silent and overgrown, was a stark contrast to the hive of dark activity it once was. Inside, the team found remnants of the experiments, but no sign of Subject Zero. It seemed that the creature had vanished, perhaps finally finding peace or succumbing to the passage of time. The team left the zone with valuable insights and a renewed commitment to their cause. Mara's journey had come full circle, but she knew that this was just the beginning of a long road ahead. She had ignited a spark of change, one that promised to grow into a flame of hope and renewal for the entire world. The year 4024, once a symbol of despair, was now a beacon of hope. Humanity had learned from its past and was slowly carving a new path, one of understanding, unity, and respect for the world they inhabited. In this new era, the dystopian wasteland was transforming, giving way to a future where the mistakes of the past would guide the steps to a wiser, more compassionate humanity. As Mara's new world began to flourish, an ominous shadow loomed over the horizon. Deep within the desolate remains of the zone, Subject Zero, the embodiment of technological terror, had been silently amassing an army. This army, a nightmarish legion of cybernetic horrors, was forged from the remnants of old world technology and driven by a singular chilling purpose: to extinguish the fledgling flame of hope that Mara and her people had kindled. The first indication of this looming threat came as a series of swift, devastating strikes on the outer settlements. These attacks were ruthless and efficient, leaving smoldering ruins and pall of fear in their wake. Mara, once a beacon of hope and resilience, faced a dire situation. Despite her efforts to unite the people and prepare for defense, the might of Subject Zero's army was overwhelming. These mechanized monstrosities, devoid of fear or mercy, advanced with relentless precision, dismantling everything in their path. With each passing day, the situation grew more desperate. The enclaves, once symbols of a new beginning, fell one by one. Mara and her closest allies mounted a valiant resistance, but they were fighting a losing battle against an enemy that seemed inexhaustible and implacable. The final stand took place in the heart of what had been the most prosperous and vibrant of the enclaves. Mara, alongside the remnants of her forces, faced Subject Zero and its legion in a battle that would decide the fate of humanity's last survivors. The conflict was cataclysmic. The air was filled with the sounds of combat, the clash of metal, the cries of the fallen. Mara fought with ferocity born of desperation, but it was not enough. Subject Zero, a towering titan of metal and malice, was an unstoppable force. As the battle raged, it became evident that there would be no victory against this relentless tide of destruction. Mara, in a final act of defiance, confronted Subject Zero, knowing that she could not defeat it, but determined to face the end with courage. In the end, the Enclave fell, and with it, the last hope of humanity's resurgence. The world, once on the brink of a new dawn, was plunged back into darkness. The machines led by Subject Zero roamed the barren landscapes, masters of the world devoid of human life. The legacy of Mara and her dreams for a better future became a distant, faded memory, lost in the winds of the world reclaimed by desolation and despair. The story of humanity's rise and fall became a forgotten echo, a tale of the brief flicker of hope exhausted by overwhelming darkness of a creation turned destroyer. And so, in this alternate bleak version of the future, the world lay in ruins, a testament to the potential consequences of human ambition and the fragile nature of hope amidst the overwhelming tides of despair. Subject Zero, the architect of this final downfall, stood as a somber reminder of the perils of unchecked power and the indelible mark of humanity's technological legacy. I've always believed in the bizarre and unexplainable, but nothing prepared me for the horror that lurks in the dead of night. It started subtly, almost unnoticeably, with a faint grinding noise under my bed, so faint I thought I was imagining it. But as the nights grew longer, the sound became my dreaded reality. Every night at exactly 3 a.m., time itself would seem to pause, the world outside my window frozen in an eerie stillness. There would be someone standing in my bedroom, door locked behind them, wondering where they were, like waking up from a coma. That's when it would begin. The grinding, not just any sound, but a bone-chilling, ear-splitting grind that seemed to echo from the very depths of a nightmare. It was then that I first saw it, the creature that lived under my bed. It was a thing of grotesque beauty, if such a thing can be called beautiful. Its body was long and sinewy, with arms that seemed too thin to support its weight, yet possessed a strength that defied logic. Its skin was a sickly shade of gray, almost translucent, stretched taut over its bony frame. But it was the mouth that terrified me most. Huge and gaping, filled with row upon rows of grinding teeth, so loud they made my eardrums feel like they would burst. The first time I saw it attack was the night it took Miss Henderson from next door. My room, bathed in a nightmarish glow of red and black, became its hunting ground. The creature moved with a ghastly grace, its gnarly arms reaching out from under my bed, ensnaring its victim in an iron grip. Miss Henderson didn't even have time to scream before she was pulled under, her body disappearing into the gaping maw of the beast. I could hear the sound of bones crushing, of flesh being ground into a sludge of blood and guts. It was a sound that would haunt my dreams, a reminder of the fate that awaited anyone unlucky enough to be its prey. The creature fed slowly, savoring its meal, and when it was done, there was nothing left of Miss Henderson, just a dark stain on the carpet and the lingering stench of death. Nights turned into weeks, and the creature's appetite grew. No one was safe. It didn't discriminate, young, old, good or bad. It didn't matter. Once the clock struck 3 a.m., the hunt began. And the grinding sound, that terrible grinding sound, was the last thing its victims ever heard. The creature's reign of terror became a part of my nightly existence, a dreadful ritual that no one could ever escape. I tried to warn others, but how do you convince someone of a monster under your bed without sounding insane? They dismissed my frantic warnings as ramblings of a disturbed mind, so I learned to live with my terrifying secret, a silent witness to the horrors that unfolded each night. As the creature claimed more victims, I noticed a disturbing pattern. It seemed to be getting stronger, its form more solid with each life it consumed. The once frail-looking creature now moved with a menacing purpose, its long arms more muscular and powerful. The grinding of its teeth was louder, more ferocious, as if it was reveling in its newfound strength. One night, I awoke to find my friend Lily in my room. I lay in my bed, petrified, as the familiar red and black haze filled the room. Time stood still, the world outside trapped in an unending moment. Lily's terrified screams echoed in my ears as the creature's arms snaked out from under my bed, its fingers like tendrils of death. In a flash, Lily was gone, pulled under by the relentless beast. The sound of her bones being crushed was a symphony of nightmares, a gruesome lullaby that played on repeat in my mind. When it was over, the creature retreated into the shadows, leaving behind a room splattered with the remnants of its feast. The nightmare continued, night after night, each attack more brutal than the last. The creature was insatiable, its hunger unquenchable. I tried everything to stop it, prayers, rituals, even attempting to barricade my bed, but nothing worked. It was as if the creature was bound to me, a dark entity that fed on my fear and despair. I began losing hope, the constant terror and helplessness chipping away at my sanity. Sleep became an elusive dream, replaced by endless nights of vigil, waiting for the inevitable horror to unfold. The grinding noise under my bed was now a constant companion, a grim reminder of the creature's presence. In my heart, I knew it was only a matter of time before it came for me. The creature was taking everyone I cared about, leaving me alone in a world where no one believed in the monster under my bed. But I knew the truth. I knew that when you hear the grinding noise, it's already too late. Your nightmare has just begun, and there is no escape from the creature that dwells in the darkness. As nights blurred into a constant stream of terror, a chilling realization dawned on me. It wasn't just a monster under my bed. I was a part of this nightmare. Each person who vanished had one thing in common. They were all connected to me. Friends, acquaintances, even distant relations. I had unknowingly led them into the jaws of death. I began to understand that I wasn't just a witness. I was the gatherer. It was as if the creature and I were bound by some unseen sinister force, like I was a puppet on strings. I was the bait that lured the victims to their end. The horror of my role in this nightmare consumed me. How many had I brought to their doom? How many lives had ended because of me? The weight of my guilt was crushing, an unbearable burden that I could no longer bear. In a desperate attempt to end the cycle, I decided to confront the creature. I stayed awake, waiting for the fateful hour. As the clock struck 3 a.m., the room plunged into a familiar red and black haze. Time froze, and the grinding began, louder and more menacing than ever. My little sister Ash appeared in my room. I screamed. I had enough. I stood from my bed in front of my sister, my heart pounding in my chest. The creature emerged, its massive form looming over me. Its eyes, dark and soulless, bore into mine. I felt a cold, paralyzing fear grip me, but I had to know the truth. "Why me?" I screamed into the void. "Why are you doing this?" The creature's response was a gruntle growl, a sound that seemed to come from the depths of hell itself. But in that growl, I heard the truth. It was a part of me, a manifestation of my deepest fears and darkest thoughts. I had created it, fed with my own terror. In that moment, I knew what I had to do. I had to face my fears, to confront the darkness within me. With a trembling body, I lunged at the creature. It grabbed me like I had seen it done so many times with the victims in my room. It looked into my eyes and let out a piercing scream, a sound that seemed to shatter the very fabric of reality. And then, just as suddenly as it had appeared, it vanished. The room returned to normal, the red and black haze dissipating into the night. My sister had vanished. I was alone, the grinding noise gone, replaced by a deafening silence. The creature was no more. I ran to my sister's room, and to my surprise, when I opened the door, she was fast asleep, like she was never in my room, never saw the creature under my bed. In the days that followed, I struggled to come to terms with what had happened. The creature was gone, but the memories remained, a haunting reminder of the nightmare I had lived through. I knew the creature would find a new puppet, a new person to feed its souls. So this is my warning. If you ever hear a grinding noise under your bed, remember to be brave and face it head on. And hopefully, it won't consume you. "1563 Sycamore was the address. From the moment we drove up the gravel path, I knew this house was going to be our fresh start. My wife Anna had always dreamt of a quaint home away from the city hustle, and the kids Lily and Max were excited about their new larger rooms. The house was an old Victorian beauty, with its towering gables and expanse of yard that seemed to span on forever. As we unpacked, I noticed a rope dangling from a sturdy oak tree in the backyard. Probably a remnant of a kid's swing, I thought, shrugging it off. It was our third night in the new house when I first heard it. A faint creaking, like floorboards straining under weight. I sat up in bed, my heart pounding. Anna slept soundly beside me. I tiptoed to the kids' room. They were sound asleep. The house was still, yet the creaking continued, like a slow rhythmic dance. I checked every nook and cranny, finding nothing but the echo of my own footsteps. Each night the creaking returned. It became our uninvited nocturnal guest. Anna joked it was the house settling in, but the knots in my stomach told a different story. That evening, as the house groaned and settled around me, a thought struck me. The internet. I hadn't thought to look up the house's history online. Huddled in the dim glow of my laptop, I typed in the address, 1563 Sycamore. Page after page of search results painted a grim picture. Local family vanishes without a trace. One headline read. Another detailed a series of unexplained disappearances spanning decades, all linked to this house. The articles were old, obscured by time, never popping up in our initial searches. With each click, a sinking feeling grew in my stomach. Photos of smiling families, happy and unaware of the fate that awaited them in this very house, stared back at me. Each story ending the same. No traces, no leads, just an empty house. I shut the laptop, my mind reeling. How had I missed this? Why hadn't anyone warned us? The house seemed to lean in closer, as if eager to hear my racing thoughts. I found myself drawn to the oak tree. Its branches swayed gently, as if breathing. I reached out to grab the rope down, but as I touched it, a chill ran down my spine. The rope felt alive, pulsating with a century's worth of whispers. "Help us," a faint voice seemed to say on the wind. I recoiled, my mind racing. Was I losing my grip on reality? Then one by one, they disappeared. First it was Lily. We searched frantically, but she was nowhere. The police were baffled. No signs of forced entry, no clues. Then 2 nights later, Max vanished. His room was untouched, his bed neatly made, as if he had never been there. Anna became a shell of herself, her eyes hollow, her voice a mere whisper. I tried to hold on, for her, for them, but the house, it was consuming us. The next night I woke up to an empty bed. "Anna!" I screamed, my voice echoing through the empty halls, but there was no answer. The house was eerily silent, the creaking gone. I stumbled outside, my heart in my throat. There under the oak tree, I saw them. Anna, Lily, and Max, all suspended from the branches, lifeless. Their faces twisted in terror, the rope now multiplied, encircling each of them, holding them in its cruel embrace. I fell to my knees, the world spinning around me. The trees seemed to mock me, its leaves rustling with a sinister satisfaction. Days turned into weeks. I couldn't leave. I couldn't abandon them. The house watched me, its windows like judging eyes. The tree stood there, a monument to my family, to my failure. I'm writing this as a warning. If you're reading this, stay away from 1563 Sycamore. The house, the tree, they're cursed. I hear the creaking again, louder this time. It's calling for me, the last member of the family. I know I can't escape it. Tonight, I will join my family. The rope waits for me, a noose prepared for its final victim. As I walk towards the tree, I feel their presence around me, their whispers in my ear. Join us, Daddy. We're waiting.